Hi, everyone. Alan Shields here, Chief of Police, and we're tenant in service, which means we're here to make people's lives better, and we do that by safeguarding the lives, rights, and property of people we serve. Probably be better if we could wipe off the 14th off the map, and I'll get to that in the blotter. But we were doing fantastic up until the 14th. We're going to cover some of our wildfire preparedness and evacuation plan, and we're going to cover the blotter, and we're going to cover some safety tips. So stay tuned for the show. As always, if you can go to the description, there's some download links there. There's wildfire preparedness and evacuation. That is what we're going over now. There is the FEMA All Hazards Guide. That is what we just went over the last couple of months. There's also information on how to sign up for the community warning system through the Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff. That's how you get notified of a danger or a hazard out there. And then you can also, there's a link for the PG&E website. The PG&E website is fantastic. Again, I would ask that you separate the communications from the service. What I am speaking to is the communications aspect of it. When there is a power outage, that site is very up to date, and it usually is very good as far as giving you information on the outage itself. This is a live show, so if you have questions, go ahead and throw that question in the chat. If you have comments, throw it in the chat too. We've had comments of, speeding on this issue at that park. Can you address these concerns? The whole purpose behind us going live once a week is to hear from you and answer any questions that you have. The other side is we provide you information. So we'll move on to that portion now, which is our blotter. All right, so our blotter, you can actually access this information on communitycrimemap.com. We upload everything except for the sexual assault information and family violence. We do that to protect the identity of the victims. And you can also set up alerts, so you can get alerts to your email from this site. You can also access the Megan's Law or the Sexual Offender Registry direct from that site as well. All right, kind of interesting. If you looked at the map, looks like there's 4 collisions. We actually had 2 total reports, not 4. On the 9th, we had an injury collision on Camino Tassajara and Wood Ranch Drive, and this was a vehicle that left the roadway and struck a pole. On the 13th, we had a vehicle into the construction site on Harts Avenue. This was initially reported as a collision. After the officers arrived, though, it was determined that no collision had occurred and no report was requested by either party. So that green dot in the middle there, downtown, kind of got wiped away because there wasn't really an accident. So that'll be corrected. And then on the 13th, there was a minor injury collision of a vehicle into a parked car on San Thomas Way, and that's on the south end, down by kind of the yellow one down by Osage there. All right. Oh, let me get that back. All right, on to the blotter, and this is where our crime is. So we were looking pretty good. So all 7 of the Part 1 crimes, all 7 occurred as a result of one single event on the 14th. And how we were alerted to it was at 7:02 in the morning, and this is kudos to the community. You all, I don't want to say amaze me, but you all do a very, very good job of having alarms and cameras and things that we can use to help solve crimes, but also you're just generally alert, whether it's those of you that are out walking, riding your bikes, looking through your neighbor's garage, those sort of things. And I don't mean in a weird way. I mean, actually, as you're out for a walk, using the natural surveillance of where you're at and identifying people where they're not supposed to be. In this case, that's how we were alerted to come out there. And frankly, at the rate that these people were working, this could have been worse. But it was pretty clear that all of you alerted them that you knew they were there, called the police. We got out there. Unfortunately, they were able to get away before we got there. The end result was, it looks like at least 7, maybe 8 cars were broken into. And at 5 of the locations, what they did was, and this isn't a clicker, but they used the garage door opener that they found inside the car to open the garage and enter the garage. So if you remember, the definition of a residential burglary is enter into any structure being 3 sides and a roof, with the intent to commit a theft or any felony. So these are residential burglaries, and I know when we think of residential burglaries, we think of entering the actual common area of the house. These were all entry into the garages. Now, so that's where the residential burglary definition comes in. So we had 5 of them that went from vehicle thefts from unlocked vehicles to residential burglaries into the house. And let's look at the locations real quick. all within that red circle. I know there's only one house there, but it's all in that east end of town there, out off of Camino Tassajara and Crow Canyon, that section there. And we had 5 total burglaries, 2 additional thefts at the residential burglaries, which also included thefts from autos. We had it on Blackstone Court, Shelterwood Drive, Stetson Drive, Cafe Court, Casablanca Street. Where there were only thefts from auto was on Triumph Court and Shelterwood Drive. So what does that tell me? That tells me on the 2 where there were thefts from the auto but no entry into the garages is that they probably didn't have garage doors. And here's the tricky part. Sometimes it's the actual opener. Sometimes it's the pre-programmed portion that's in the car itself. So a lot of cars come with HomeLink or something similar where you can program in your garage door opener right into the button in your car. And I will tell on myself, we had cars for several years, 2 of them, that we parked outside in the driveway on the road. And I had those pre-programmed because I was under the impression that if I programmed those door buttons, if the car was off, I'm using the key, right? Back when we had keys. If the key wasn't in the ignition, I thought that didn't work. And frankly, sadly, it wasn't until I saw someone at work get their house broken into using the clicker that I thought, well, let me check. And so I went to my car without the key in the ignition. The car was unlocked. And sure enough, the HomeLink worked. And so what I did was I deprogrammed all of them. And our recommendation is, 1, do not leave this garage door opener or anything of value inside in the car. Make sure you lock the car. And then if you have your car programmed for those HomeLink buttons, if you park it in the garage, probably not a big deal. If you park it outside, huge deal, right? So our recommendation is please do not keep those programmed. A lot of times when I give tips after crimes just happened, it may sound like I'm shaming our victims. And what I don't want to make it seem like is that I'm shaming our victims. Because here's the reality. I should be able to park my car, leave my phone sitting on the front seat, leave my wallet sitting on the dash, and leave all my doors unlocked. That is how it should be, because the responsibility for the crime rests 100% on those folks that committed the crime, not our victims. What I'm simply doing is providing the landscape and the picture as to what the crimes that are happening right now and what you can do to prevent from being a victim. If you remember back in like January, February, we were having residential burglaries, and what we were finding and what I told all of you was that these were open space related burglaries, that the homes that were being broken into appeared to be backed up to open space, and they were entering through back doors. And so if you were in that condition, you might want to take extra steps, cameras, motion lights, those sort of things. So what I'm telling you now is what we've seen in this recent rash of burglaries is these are opportunistic thieves that are going into unlocked cars. So if we lock them, that's step 1. And when they're getting into the homes, they're getting in by way of the garage door opener. Now, I do have to admit, I understand the violation that it feels like to have your house broken into. Just after hearing this, when I got a call on Sunday that all these crimes had occurred, early Monday morning, so essentially for me, Sunday night, I hear the door chime on my garage door. I hear that go off. And I'm like, okay, well, that's something. So I checked the cameras, and the first thing I thought of is, wow, are they back again today? Is someone breaking into my house? And what it was I got on my phone real quick, checked my cameras, and it was my son actually leaving for work. He was doing an opening shift at his work. The reason I share that story with you is there's other things you can do that, 1, will prevent crime from happening, and 2, will provide you a sense of security. So at my house, any exterior door has a sensor on it. And when that door is open, even the garage door, even the big roll-up door has a little swing sensor on it. So when it goes up, I get an alert in my bedroom and in the front kitchen area. And so when that goes off, I know to check, and I can see that it's, a garage door, a front door, a back door. So for me, yeah, I had a little bit of anxiety. I was able to quickly check my cameras and determine, hey, everything is okay, right? And if it wasn't okay, I would do exactly what those folks did on Sunday morning, which is to call the police and get a bunch of cops out there. Great thing about being part of Danville Police is that we are members of the sheriff's office. I'm a lieutenant assigned here as the chief of police. all the cops here are deputies. So we are very closely connected with all of our deputies up north in Alamo and Round Hill and Blackhawk. So when we get a call at 7:02 in the morning that someone is in a garage and they're not supposed to be here, you're not just getting Danville police. You're getting all of our deputy sheriffs rolling out there as well. You're getting a lot of support. And we're so close with San Ramon, and we have such a good working relationship with them. We alert them as well. So that's my tips for all of you. But what is Danville police doing about this? What are we, do we just sit here and wait for crime to happen? No. One of the things that we did was we actually had our crime lab come out from the sheriff's office. So they came out and they processed all the homes. And the hope is that we can get DNA, fingerprints, or some evidence to link a suspect to these crimes. We were also able to put out a locate request for the vehicle, and it ended up being recovered out in Oakland. So we sent one of our officers out there. They recovered. That's how that's the term we use. They recovered the car. We towed it back here to our police department. Again, we had the sheriff's crime lab come out and process that car, and they spent about 5 or 6 hours going through that car, just getting as much details as they can from the car. And the hope is that we can, with all these little breadcrumbs, we will put together a case. And I was a little late getting on the show here because I was talking to the detective, getting that very update that we had recovered the car, we had processed it, and we were going through that. So we are working this case. We have several detectives on it. We are working with outside agencies so that if there is anything that we can put together on this case, we will put it together. But we are sparing no expense on this case. I'm looking at YouTube, and I see Tammy. First off, Tammy, thanks for joining us. We're not Danville, Virginia. We're actually Danville, California. I think we get confused for Danville, Virginia quite a bit. But thanks for tuning in and watching. Got some questions on Facebook I'm going to get to. Larry says, who has jurisdiction over the Iron Horse Trail? Larry, that is the East Bay Parks District. And so they are the ones that the East Bay Regional Parks District has jurisdiction over. I know it's weird because it's a small, 30-foot wide strip that runs all the way through town. It is their jurisdiction. That doesn't mean that the Danville police doesn't respond. If it is a cold event, if it is something that doesn't require an immediate police response, in other words, if it was a battery that was occurring, if it was a robbery that was taking place, if it was a medical issue that required assistance right now, they would let us know. So East Bay Regional Parks would typically call Danville police and say, Danville, can you help us out? We would get a car or two or whatever the resources that were needed to help stabilize that scene, and we would help out. And that actually happens quite often. So that is that. But if you have a specific question about the Iron Horse Trail, Larry, I'm interested to see what it is. You kind of have me perked on that. Gary says some home link systems will shut down when the ignition switch is off. Others take time to shut down, and others, frankly, never shut down. You need to check each car. Gary, that's good advice because I didn't know that. Once I found out in my particular model car, because I actually went out, unlocked it, and then tried it. So I don't know if there was a time between when I unlocked it and when I tried it, and that made it work. But I was at the point I didn't want to take chances of someone having access to the inside of my house. And Vivian says thanks, so I appreciate it. Tammy, I hope I answered your question. If you have another question, by all means, throw it in the chat, and I'd be happy to answer it. All right, so we're going to go over the arrest log. Let's see. It was actually a very active week. We get a lot of traffic complaints, and I know we say we get a lot of the complaints that Communitas is a speedway, San Ramon Boulevard is a speedway. So I've encouraged and directed our officers, not just our traffic officers, but our patrol officers as well, to really be vigilant for speed complaints, stop sign, stoplight violations, for inattention, those things that we know are causing accidents, and also those things that you tell us that you're seeing. We don't wait for the accident to occur. We know that your observations, if you see a change in behavior, is a good indicator that bad driving is going to result in collisions. So our arrest log, what does it look like? On the 8th, we issued him in a citation for DUI, that's driving under the influence, after he was stopped for driving on Wood Ranch Circle. On the 9th, we issued another man a citation after he was arrested for reckless driving on San Ramon Valley Boulevard and Midland Drive, and his vehicle was impounded. And let me explain that real quick. So if you are arrested for reckless driving, for speed contests, exhibition of speed, any of those crimes, there's a special section in the vehicle code that gives law enforcement the authority to impound your car, not just tow it for a very temporary time, but impound it for 30 days. So we usually do a 30-day impound on those. And if the owner wishes to get their car back, they can go through a hearing process with us to get the car back. But the idea is the person that is driving 100 miles an hour down San Ramon Valley Boulevard, what we don't want to do is give them the instrument to commit the crime the day after they committed the crime. And so the idea is if there's that cooling off period, hopefully they will realize I should not be doing this and they won't continue to commit that crime. 100 miles an hour down San Ramon Valley Boulevard is too fast, and cars just disintegrate when there's a collision at that speed. On the 10th, the man was booked in the county jail for battery after striking another man. This was a misdemeanor battery, which is why it did not make the Part 1 crime log. But he was booked for misdemeanor battery after striking another man near the CVS on Camino Tasajera. On the 12th, the man was booked in the jail, and this was because he was so drunk that he was unable to care for himself, and he was right in one of our residential neighborhoods over there on the 700 block of Brookside Drive. On the 13th, the man was issued a citation for DUI after he was stopped driving on Camino Tasajera and Shady Creek Circle. And then another man on the 14th was issued a citation for reckless driving on Love Lane and Southwick Place. So a lot of times we get questions on the arrest log. Sometimes we will arrest someone for DUI and we issue them a citation. We release them here from the jail. Other times we book them in jail. And so the question is why do you book some and not others? On the battery, it's a misdemeanor battery. Why did we book that person in jail instead of just issue them a citation and release them? And sometimes we do. When it comes to misdemeanors, the default is actually to issue a citation and simply release them. There's certain reasons where we can book misdemeanors, and typically the reason is because we think the offense is likely to continue. So as the battery is an example, the officer felt based on the circumstances and the interviews with both people and the randomness at which the attack occurred, if he felt that if he just issued that person a citation and released him, that the potential for that crime occurring, maybe not to the same person, but to another person, was very likely, and it was in the interest of all of the public to send that person to jail. Now, in DUIs, a lot of times, if the blood alcohol level is low, and maybe the person is acting reasonable, not reasonable to drive, but reasonable to walk home, right? And here's the big part. If we can find someone to transfer liability to, so if we have a sober person that can come pick them up, then we can release them to them. And we have that person sign a release saying they won't let them drive, they'll take care of them, and off they go. But if there is no one to release them to, or their BAC is so high, or they're combative, or they give us the impression that they're just going to hop in a car and go drive, kind of derelict for us to actually release them. So then we take them and we send them to jail. And what they do is they wait until the blood reasonably is out of their system. They basically use the 0.02 per hour standard. And in other words, if someone's 0.10, they wait 5 hours and then they release them. And that way they're reasonably safe to leave. So that's why you might see some misdemeanors where we book and some where we release on scene there. All right. Check in the chat to see if there's any other questions. I don't see any. So let's move on to our Wildfire Preparedness Evacuation Guide. Here's the deal. I'm covering the wave tops. I really want you to download this guide. The reason I show this is because I want you to see it and I want you to think, I need to download that because I want to be prepared. So should something happen, I'm prepared, my family's prepared, my pets are prepared, we've got it covered. So here's what it looks like. This will help you prepare your home, have a plan, a kit, how to stay informed, and that's what we're going to cover tonight, and then how to, why, not necessarily how, why knowing your neighbors is very important. So where can you get information? The big one's on the right. That is our CWS platform. This is an opt-in. If you don't opt in, you're not going to get the alert. But if you opt in, we can get alerts to your cell phone, to your email. We can get you all kinds of information. On the left, though, don't forget just common sources. We've got, I will give kudos. Let me pull back here. I will give a great deal of kudos to our local media. I know sometimes when we say media or the press, it gets lumped into this large group of press, maybe kind of nationalized. I will tell you right now, our local media is phenomenal. They do an excellent job. They have helped us so many times at echoing a message. Maybe we've got a lost adult. Maybe we've got a lot of burglaries that are happening on the east end of town. They help us expand our message and our reach so much to keep all of you informed that they are phenomenal and they are awesome. And these reporters, they legitimately, they put themselves in harm's way to be at locations so that you can be informed. And I've seen them at disaster areas. I've seen them in areas where there's high crime. So they do an excellent job to keep all of you informed. So it's not just about our CWS. Please sign up for our CWS, but make sure that you bookmark some of your favorite sites there, because our local news is very good. Down on the left there, Zonehaven Aware. There is a link down in the description for that. It's actually no longer called Zonehaven. It's Genesis is the company that bought them out. But that is where the entire state now, or at least the county, is actually split into zones. So let me pull it up real quick. Share location. And what it does is it will tell you. So I'm going to pull this up real quick. I'll put it on screen. So we're kind of doing this live, so bear with me a little bit. Okay, so we're live. So this is Danville. This is what the map of Danville looks like. Let's see if I can get rid of that. No. Okay, so if you were to click on like Danville Zone 6, it's going to give you information on what defines that area, right? And this is when there is no issue. But if there is an evacuation alert or warning, this area is going to be lit up different. And let me see if there's actually, I don't know if there's one. You can see there's some fires that are listed here. Okay, here. So here's a fire that's listed, and this is what a fire would look like. So if there's a fire on our hillside, this is what you're going to see. 95% containment, the date that it started, and how many acres it covers. There are no evacuation orders in that one. But if there were an evacuation order, what you would see is you would see that area. You'd see the area lit up, and it would tell you what to do. And it's something that instead of waiting for us to send you something, you can monitor this and check and say, okay, I live in Danville Zone 15. Is the status normal? Normal meaning I can go back to my house, or is it still in an evacuation order? So there's a lot of good information that you can get right from that site. We will update that site. We'll push information out on Nixle and CWS, but then we'll also keep this site updated, and we're going to use those zones to do evacuations. So if you can imagine, if we had a hillside fire, and I'll pull the map back up, we're just going to down and say zones 6, 5, 6, 7, what is that? 2, 8, 10, 11. We're just going to evacuate all those zones. On our side, what's actually really good about this product, and it's not that we wouldn't know this anyway, but what's good about this product is if I choose 5 zones to evacuate, I can actually see where my choke points are going to be, and it will make recommendations for where I should send officers based on priority. Where am I going to need to send officers to fix an intersection, to get cars moving so that we can have the quickest evacuation that we can? So that's a good thing to be aware of. Make sure you're aware of that Zonehaven site. I would bookmark it on your phone so that you have it. So evacuation tips, here's the big one. I'm not going to go over each one of them, but if you feel you're in danger, don't wait, get out. If you have functional needs, in other words, if you're wheelchair bound, if you have crutches, if you're maybe elderly and you need more time to move, if you have pets, any of those things that are going to limit your ability to move quickly, we recommend go now. Don't wait. Don't even wait for an evacuation order or a warning. Just go. Button up your house and get going. So that way you're good. If you're trapped, the recommendation is, if the roads are closed and all that, is stay clear of vegetated areas. If you're on foot, look for a safe building or a swimming pool, someplace that you can go that you can. If you're in your home, we recommend fill your tub with water and submerge, that you can be submerged in, and place wet towels under doors to keep the smoke and the embers out. When you return home, this is a tricky one. We will have routes that we will recommend for you to go when we want you to come back in. We did experience this with the Vacaville fires. A lot of Danville folks went up there, and county folks from the sheriff's office went up to help out with people returning home. And we're going to provide where the safe route is. We're going to make sure that there are no more fires, and that there are no hazards like power lines down, charged power lines, and things like that. It will be disrupted. You may not have everything you need. There may not be running water. There may not be electricity, but I can guarantee you, and this is what I have physically seen going to these fire zones, is when the power goes out in an area and there's poles down and all that, PG&E comes out with hundreds of vehicles and a lot of people, and they are in full force, constantly repairing. And I was actually amazed at how quickly they're able to get power up. I know it's not as quickly as we like. We like to snap our fingers and just have power back up, but they work hard day and night to get that power up. So it's one of those things. It's might not be there right away, but it's certainly going to get up there. You want to make sure you have some safe supplies, so when you go back home, you've got some things to help with cleanup and to make sure that you're not harmed by things that may be in that burnt, charred area. And so make sure you have that. But just go to the link down in the description, download the guide. And I think if you this is all we did, was we just go through it one time, make sure we have go bag, and we'll cover go bags next week. Make sure you have a good go bag. Make sure you have what you need so that this is for wildfires, but should an earthquake happen or should some other event happen, you're more prepared. Trying to prepare in the moment of crisis is really, really difficult, and it will cause a lot of frustration and frankly could result in harm or loss of life. So you really want to be prepared. Make sure that you're prepared on that. I'm looking in the chat here to see if there's anything else. Gary, if your home leak is in the visor, wait for a good while after you shut the, let's get the feedback there. There we go. If your home leak is in the visor, wait for a good while after you shut down the car. If your vanity mirror lights are off, then the home leak is shut down. All right, good advice, Gary. Appreciate that. All right, looks like that is all we have. Let me open this back up real quick. All right, yeah, I don't see anything else in the chat. So thank you to everyone that joins live. I really appreciate seeing the live viewers. It means that we're staying connected and that you have an opportunity that should you have questions or concerns, you can raise them live right here every week. Those that watch after, I really do appreciate you coming in. Please be aware, though, we have kind of a time frame that we use to check the chat. So if it's 2, 3, 4 weeks afterwards, we're going to be a little bit slower in responding to your chat. So if you have a question and it's timely and you want an answer to it, you can just email me directly. I do work hard to try to answer all my emails, but sometimes I get a lot of them. So it may take me a day or two to get back to you, but if I can get back to you quicker, I will. So if you're watching this afterwards and it's 2, 3 weeks down the road, don't hesitate to email me. I'll put my email in the chat so you've got it. All right. With that, make sure you download the Wildfire Preparedness Guide, which we're covering now, the FEMA Guide, which we covered over the last few weeks. Sign up for the community warning system and check out PG&E site. It is a great site. A lot of good information there on how you can be prepared, but also when the power goes out, you've got information there. All right. With that, I will say that we're 10-10, which means we're off duty, but we're always 10-8 in service to all of you. Have a good night, Danville.